Hello internets, I'm Zelz, the channel is Zellspeak, and this is my ESO Group Dungeon Quest and Lore series. For this video, we are back in Stone Falls for Fungal Grotto 2. And because I couldn't stand the thought of starting another video without a fall to my death, we are in the Vivec Antlers region of Stone Falls for a view and a jump. Yes, the Vivec Antlers region. So many jokes I can make and none of them are YouTube appropriate. I'll just have to trust that you have the subject well in hand. But seriously, isn't this an amazing view? Ah! So much better. But okay, enough of the inappropriate humor. Let's head into Mushroom Caverns and see if the cultists will let us into their shrine this time. I brought my C4.
Quickly, come here.
We enter Fungal Grotto 2 to find the site of a Fighters Guild member holding his arm, so we know things are dire. At first it appears the spider cultists are gone, but when we look at the back of the cave mouth, we see that they are enemies now. I hope you were sitting down for that one. The book lying here was in the first dungeon too, but since it's Prayer of the Resolute, a prayer to Stendarr, I'm guessing it belongs to this upstanding-looking soldier and not Veloth's group.
You need to leave this place, stranger. It will soon be crawling with Daedric shadows. We've been in conflict with the spider cult for days, and it appears they have won.
How'd that happen?
The spider cult recently attacked this grotto and wiped out the indigenous goblins. They control this region now. The Fighters Guild sent my men to investigate shortly thereafter, but our ranks have been devastated.
Cultists took over this whole region?
These are like no spider cultists I've faced before. They can turn flesh to shadow and sedition to loyalty. They've amassed a small army of shadow soldiers, ensnaring innocent people to their cause. This region will soon be overrun.
That's okay. We got this.
You must have a death wish. Very well, that's madness I can use. What to handle first? I need to know how the spider cult is indoctrinating their victims. If you can free my captured guildmates up ahead, they may be able to share some insight.
So who are these cultists?
They're Daedra worshippers, specifically of Mephala. They've been enthralling travelers moving through the grotto, and turning them into beings of darkness loyal to the spider cult.
Yikes, how do we fix that?
I don't know. They can be fought and killed, but they replenish their ranks daily as travelers continue to pass through.
And what happened to your guildmates?
I didn't abandon them, if that's what you're asking. We were ambushed, and a dozen of us were killed in the opening moments of battle. I called for a fighting retreat, but not everyone made it back. I was the only one.
So what can we expect to see out there?
Spiders. Lots of spiders, and their handlers. They wield strange magics, blessings from Mephala, that enshroud them in darkness. Their army consists of enthralled travelers as well. Innocents made loyal to the cult by the power of the same magic.
Sounds great. Let's go. And now through the magic of editing, we are joined by my friends who are totally real people and not at all computer simulations, and I don't know why you would ask me that. And they're cool people too, because not only did they come and help me run this dungeon and let me film them, but they also very tactfully quit asking me when the video was going to be posted when week after week it was not. So that's how cool they are. To answer that question, I will never guarantee you a posting schedule, but I can guarantee you that I will keep making these videos. Hopefully I will get faster as I get better at Premiere Pro, but as much as I love making them, I also love researching them, and I love playing. So life's a balance, and I've never been particularly good at balance. I certainly will ebb and flow. But we've got a lot of dungeons to go through, and I will keep doing them. So yes, thanks to my friends for coming and helping me film this. Thanks to you all for watching, and thanks to all of you for your patience. I hope you are enjoying it as well. So we were sent out by Defender Two Blades to see if there were any other Fighters Guild survivors from his unit that were still trapped in the cave waiting to be made into shadow slaves, and it looks like we have found one. Let's see if she has any information for us.
I thought today would be my last. You have my thanks. Who are you?
Just a helpful hero.
No one will be truly safe until the spider cultists are defeated. I don't understand the method behind it, but they're bringing innocents here to enslave them with their magic. I'm fearful of asking. But were there other survivors?
Yes, Two Blades is by the entrance.
Thank Izmir. I'll head there as soon as I recover my strength. I thank you again. If my fellow guildmates live, they'll be up ahead.
We'll find them.
Please, hurry. There isn't much time.
There is some fun flavor text in this dungeon, including this little series of journal entries by a cultist who doubted that the shrine really was anything important at all. By Ysmir, she said. Ysmir means Dragon of the North, and usually it refers to Talos, Tiber Septim, but he hasn't been born yet in ESO time. Ysmir is also a general appellation for Nordic kings, but besides Talos, the one most commonly called Ysmir was King Wulfharth of Athmora, who ruled in Skyrim in the First Era. The first time. King Wulfharth was a dragonborn with such a mighty Thu'um that he could not speak his oaths of office when he became High King. He was also a zealot who was famous for destroying the Alessian temples, killing their priests, and reinstating traditional Nordic worship. It's also possible our former captive was swearing by Pellinal Whitestrake, but he is rarely called Ysmir. And here is our second Fighters Guild survivor. Let's see what information she can give us.
You arrived just in time.
Are you okay?
I'll be fine. I'm fortunate you got here when you did. They were preparing to turn me.
Two Blades sent me. What do you mean by turn you?
Two Blades is alive? Then perhaps the Divines will us to fight on. Good. Those cult members told me they would grant me a blessing, that it might turn me to their cause. They've been enslaving people in the same way.
Did you learn anything that could help us stop them?
Not much. I heard them say they would bring me to the obsidian husk to bestow their blessing. No clue what that is, but more of my captured guildmates are up ahead. They may know more.
We'll find them. Anything else to add?
I'll return to Two Blades when I can. Go on ahead. There may be more lives to save.
This cave also contains the second and final journal entry from our journal-writing spider cultist, who is now doing penance for doubting the power of the Dark One, and that penance is he or she has not eaten solid food in 3 days. Others have not been so lucky, they say. Apparently, dissension has not been met with a lot of tolerance. We are about to head into the toughest boss fight in the dungeon, but before we do that, let us talk to our last Fighters Guild survivor and see if he has any more information for us.
That was certainly a grim situation.
Are you okay?
I'll live. Thank you for your help. But as someone who usually plays the role of the mercenary rescuer, I just want you to know that I can't afford to pay you.
Yeah, that's okay. Two Blades sent me. So what happened?
Bless that man's bald head. Those cultists captured me and boasted that they would bless me with the obsidian husk. They were going to take me to some shrine up ahead. Said they would make me clean. It sounded very unappealing.
So do you have any useful intel?
Well, this husk sounds fairly important. Whatever it is, it's waiting in that shrine up ahead. I would start there.
To translate, our third rescuee says that the holy object we already knew about is probably in the shrine we already knew about, and in addition to no new intel, he also can't pay us in gold for the rescue. I can't help but feel if our situations were reversed, he might have put me back in the cage. Luckily for him, you and I don't have that option. Speaking of options, this particular boss fight is with Gamine. You might remember her as this woman.
I've no time for pleasantries. Speak.
Punching Gamine in the nose back then was not an option, but it is now, and it's very satisfying. I will always remember the first time I came in this room. Everyone's got a story like this. During this fight, a random person gets pinned by 4 specters and a spectral sword starts to fall. The other 3 group members have to target and kill one of those specters before the sword hits bottom or that person dies. We died and died and died and died and died and died and died for like hours. I felt terrible because I was sure it was my fault. But then finally someone noticed that we were on vet mode instead of normal. I still find killing Gamine inordinately satisfying, I gotta say. I also gotta say that while I was blaming myself, not one other person in the group was doing so. They were great to me, encouraging and supportive and positive the whole time. Now, I was lucky, and I'm grateful, because those were fantastic people, but as a larger point, this community is filled with fantastic people. And if you have been avoiding doing group content because you've heard a horror story about this or that person being a jerkface, please understand that that's the exception rather than the rule. In ESO, you are more likely to find someone eager to teach you how to love doing the thing that they love doing than you are to find someone who wants to be a jerkface about it. While I was pontificating there, we found a lore book called the Obsidian Husk, which ties a few of the strands of the web together for us and explains the husk's powers. One thing the husk can do is grant a powerful wielder the ability to turn other people into shadow slaves bound to the will of the husk. As soon as the spider cultist high priestess Veloth figured out how to fully harness that power, she began ensnaring and enslaving innocent travelers who came to the grotto for the heady mix of hot springs, scenery, and fungus of all sizes. Eventually, she had enough shadow slaves to be a real problem for the locals, and someone called in the Fighters Guild, who promptly fell under the waves of enslaved tourist soldiers who really just wanted to chill under the mushrooms, man. Some days, no matter where you go, someone wants to harsh your zen, you know? So the Fighters Guild got called in and didn't do well. It's worth noting that the Fighters Guild members here in Fungal Grotto are different than the ones we saw in Spindle Clutch. The Fighters Guild was originally an Akaviri organization. It only began accepting non-Akaviri members when it was chartered by Potentate Versaduche in the Second Era, year 321. That's why the unofficial armor style of the Fighters Guild is Akaviri. The guild members we saw in Spindle Clutch were part of a Daedra-worshipping splinter group within the guild, and not all of them were wearing Akaviri armor. By contrast, most of the Fighters Guild members here in Fungal Grotto are wearing the traditional Akaviri motif, and 2 of them make references that let us know that they're Daedra worshippers as well. It's interesting, too, that it's the Fighters Guild here dealing with this, and not, I don't know, any of the militant branches of the Tribunal. In fact, there's a lot of places in Stone Falls where the Tribunal are not. The place where we started this video, Vivec's Antlers, is a beachy area with a lot of dead Dunmer bodies on it. In the quest Cleansing the Past, a priestess asks you to go around and bless the remains of the Dunmer so that their spirits can be at peace. How did they die? Well, they died because the Dunmer were at war with the Akaviri, and Vivec's solution to that was to flood part of Morrowind to drown the invaders. But his people were going to be okay because he was going to teach them how to breathe water for a day. And I think now you can understand why I love Vivec so much. because Vivec is the only creature in existence who comes up with plans more convoluted and ridiculously complicated than I do, and I find great value and comfort in that. But this is a plan. This is a Vivec plan. Okay, so his people on Vardenfell, that when the waters came, he taught them to breathe. They were okay. They were fine. But shifting around massive amounts of the ocean has consequences. Vivec is either the absolute worst at understanding the concept of consequences, or the absolute best, or, with the Vivecness of it all, really probably both at the same time. When the water shifted, it caused a massive tsunami that flooded the shores of Stonefalls. It killed the Akaviri there, yes, but it also killed the Dunmer there. Vivec either couldn't save them, chose not to, or didn't notice. Which is better? Which is more likely? The quest Cleansing of the Past doesn't have to be in the zone. The lore team put that there to let us know that Vivec's cool trick of flooding Vardenfell and drowning the Akaviri was not without its costs. That's the last thing the ghost will tell you as you finish the quest. The Akaviri were defeated, but at what cost? A lot of the lore in the Elder Scrolls comes back to the concept of the price one is willing to pay, or not willing to pay, to get or keep something one wants. Anything important, anything you want to protect, you have to be willing to bleed for. Or, well, someone has to bleed for it. Just ask Lorcan. Or to take another example, the obsidian husk. The lore book said one theory was that a piece of Mephala's essence had been trapped inside that stone. One might assume trapped means an enemy did that to Mephala, and that may be true. But it's also possible she carved off a piece of herself on purpose and put it in a magical storage vessel, note the use of the word husk, and allows it to bump around Tamriel to serve as an anchor for her will when she needs it. The use of the word husk seems a lot more significant now that the Dark Heart of Skyrim storyline is out. Clearly the husk idea is something the Daedric princes have been kicking around for a while. But the relevant thing right now is, it is time to see what's behind this door. Yes, finally! The door is open and we can see for ourselves this ancient, majestic Chimer shrine to the web spinner that's been forgotten for centuries, only to be recently discovered by some idiot adventurers who really should have just left well enough alone. But never mind them. To paraphrase our friend Vivec, who's to say what really happened? It was distant past. The point is, we're here now, in their shrine, touching their stuff. Okay. Yeah, it's a Daedric shrine like many others. It's filled with cultists who have no fashion sense. It's filled with that stone that looks like granite's been soaked in blood. And it has enough wrong angles to fuel a Lovecraftian nightmare. But although it looks like many other Daedric shrines, the difference is we hadn't seen this one before, and now we have, and if Viola Theren had understood how much that drives adventurers, she would have let us in here the first time, and this story would play out much, much differently.
The obsidian husk is a holy stone, not fit for your filthy hands.
I joke about the Daedric shrines being repetitive, but I was so happy to see the first Daedric ruin when I came into Stonefalls. It felt like coming home. Same reaction when I saw the first Ayleid ruin in Oradon. It was like, oh my gosh, this really is my Tamriel. I believe the Zone 1 dungeons have familiar environments because it makes them easier to try. As we continue to go through the dungeons, you'll see that the environments get more and more spectacular. It's natural that people move through them faster and faster as they get more and more experience with them, but it's also a shame because by the time you're new and you're starting the dungeon, most people know it well enough that it's difficult for you to even keep up with them, let alone take time to appreciate the view. And that's why I take the time for scenery shots, so that you can appreciate the dungeons as little works of art that they are, and clip the boss fights because, let's be honest, We both know that you're not here for the DPS lessons. Very definitely the worst part about doing these videos is knowing that people are watching me fight. It means that in addition to reacting to what I'm actually saying at any given moment, anyone with dungeon experience is also probably confused, amused, or horrified at my combat technique. Technique was in air quotes, I hope you heard that. So the combat really isn't my point, but I do want to give you a holistic sense of how the dungeon looks and feels, how it's laid out, how you navigate through it. The visual aspects and design aspects of the art project in addition to the story. Because it's really hard to experience that when you're running through with a group.
Wilhelm, the entrance is the only way out of here. Use the side tunnel.
Back in Fungal Grotto, we found the husk, got out of the shrine, and are now making our way back to the entrance via a river passageway. We are coming up on our final boss fight, which will be, and I hope this is not too big of a spoiler, with Veloth, the high priestess of the spider cult, devotee of the web spinner. Before we go further, I have to confess that I owe Ms. Thuran an apology. In Fungal Grotto 1, I had the audacity to mock her name a bit. I went so far as to imply it might be a stage name or one of those self-given nicknames, you know what I mean? But it turns out she didn't just start dressing in black and insisting everyone call her Vile therein when she was 15. No, her mother really did give her that name, Veloth. How do I know? Because I realized Thuran is a legit Dunmer family surname when I visited my street corner crack dealer this weekend. So firstly, I'm sorry, Mama Thuran, my bad. Viola sounds like a perfectly fine name for your little girl. Secondly, FYI, y'all, all that gold that you spend each weekend is probably going straight into the pockets of the spider cult. I mean, I'm not altering my behavior at all. I'm doing my part by informing you. You'll have to decide for yourself what you do with that information. Now let's see what Defender Two Blades has to say about this husk we found.
Fasaril and the others you've saved give you their thanks, stranger. I'll buy you around when next... Sheo, take me. What is that stone you carry?
They called it an obsidian husk. Think that has anything to do with what's going on in Skyrim?
I sent Renara and the others to look for survivors. They mentioned the cultists spoke of this obsidian husk. That it allowed them to turn flesh to shadow and bestow a blessing to enslave innocents. May I see it?
And why do you want it?
I'll try to destroy this thing. The spider cult leader, Veloth, retreated to tend to other matters after she crushed our offensive. She will no doubt be alerted when I use my magic on the stone. I'll need you to defend me one last time.
Yes, good. You destroy that and I'll protect you.
Such power, such corruption. Let's end this now. By the 8, what's happening? I can't see!
So you're the ones killing my precious flock. The stone belongs to my mistress Mephala. Return it and your death will be swift.
It is done.
Two Blades, you're alive! We arrived as soon as we could.
Thanks to our friends, not all was lost today. You are a bag of miracles, my friend. We are fortunate the cult did not enthrall you, though perhaps your will would have overcome them anyway. As for the obsidian husk, I destroyed it while you did battle with Theron.
And how exactly did you do that?
I disenchanted it. The second blade in 2 blades refers to my magic. I don't always get to put it to use, and I prefer not trying that again. Fortunately for us, you were here to handle Theron.
Yes, I have extraordinary timing that way.
Today would have been a dark one without you. Do me a favor and don't be so vocal about it. Yes? You could cost me my job.
No intel, you can't pay us, and you want discretion? Oh, honey, no.
You turned the tide for a stranger. The spider cult failed only thanks to you.
On that note, let's go look at our loot. As usual, the heavy, medium, and light sets of armor in Fungal Grotto 2 are the same as in Fungal Grotto 1. That's Dreg King Slayer, Viper Sting, and Spider Cultist Cowl, heavy, medium, and light, respectively. For our boss trophies this time, we get Spawn of Mephala, which is slightly lambent, and I am a magpie about shiny things, so yay! I have spent many hours making mounted trophy heads for my solo game house mods, and I really did start doing group content just to get these mounted heads. I am just delighted to have them available in the game world. Delighted and grateful. Cool idea as a reward system, and really well put out. And that is a wrap on Fungal Grotto 1 and 2, and on the Alliance Zone 1 dungeons. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you had a good time, and if you did, please consider clicking those like and subscribe buttons. Next up, we're going to take a break from the Alliance zones for a run through one of my personal favorite dungeons, Vaults of Madness in Cold Harbor. I'm Zells, the channel is Zellspeak, and until next time, may all your loots be leet.